Okay, today is March 14th, 2011, and I'm looking at the Euro-Dollar chart here. This is the daily chart. So, we know we've been playing with this inverse head and shoulders pattern, and hold on one second here. Okay, so anyways, we know we have the inverse head and shoulders pattern. That target is way up there. We know we have the ABC long. That target is at 44.18. We also have a new AB. Here's an A right where C is. B, C long. I had anticipated possibly testing this 50 EMA, but we haven't done that yet. So, and this neckline. So there's always the threat of that. We have to keep that in the back of our minds. Don't get too confident in longs, because when you trade them with stops, because there still is that possibility of testing this 50 EMA. Sometimes when that happens, it's because some big news comes out, FOMC's tomorrow, and we'll make that happen. So just be real careful. Now, looking at the 4-hour chart, we discussed where we had this head and shoulders. It didn't pan out, which I was leery of it, mainly because the right shoulder was higher than the left. And we continued up, violating the right shoulder here. That's no longer valid. Okay, it looks like we're going for the high up here of the 40-35 area. But it also kind of has the look that we could pull back to the trend line here. That is a possibility. But one thing I think is, we'll get to the smaller time frames and then we can discuss the actual possibilities. But on a 4-hour chart, just looking at the 4-hour chart in itself, we could pull back to the trend line. And that comes in around 39.30 area. But although when we take a look at the smaller time frames, here's what we see. And that is this inverse head and shoulders on the 1-hour chart. Price closed above the neckline. Now we did come down and close the gap here last night and bounced right off the gap and up she went. We could possibly test the neckline and head back up, taking out the 40-35 level and heading for the target up here at 41.79. Okay, so on our hourly chart, we're looking at a possibility of a pullback to the neckline and then continuation up to the 41.79 area. But if we break this high tonight, I think we'll go ahead and test the 40.36 first. So if we don't get that pullback and we break this high, then we can look to test the 40.36. Otherwise, there's a good possibility we'll test this neckline. Okay, and then looking at the 30-minute chart. Okay, if we recall last night, we had this bull flag. We broke above the flag and tested it and held. Continued up. That flag target is up here at 41.67. If you'll notice, that flag target is just a few pips under the 1-hour inverse target. Here's the 1-hour inverse target is 41.79. So right in that area is where we're looking to target, whether we pull back to the neckline and go back up, or if we just break the high and continue up. We could have the scenario where we break the high, continue up, test the 40-35 area, pull back. Or we could have a scenario where we come down and test that 1-hour neckline right here and then head back up. And don't forget the threat, especially during FOMC tomorrow, of pulling back to the daily 50 EMA, because that is still a possibility. I'm going to pause this for a second and I'm going to check something. Okay, we do have some news tomorrow, early U.S. session. Nothing with high impact, but we do have some. Okay, so other than the FOMC, of course. Now, looking at the 15-minute chart, what we have here. So if we look over here at the 30-minute chart, so keep this in mind. All right, the 1 hour chart, we have the inverse on. Possibility of testing the neckline. If we don't test the neckline and we break above the high, we'll look for the 40.35 first. Be cautious at that area of a pullback. Above that, and we'll head for the target on the inverse, which is also close to the target on this bull flag on the 30-minute chart. Then we take a look at, and we could even come down and test the bull flag trend line. Take a look at the 15-minute chart now, and we have another bull flag. And let me expand this a bit. So we had an ABC. We haven't actually got to the target of that, but we formed another ABC to the upside here. Okay, and I think we can see this better like this. So now we have another A, B, C to the upside, targeting 40.30. So the target on the 15-minute chart is just 5 pips below the 40.35 high. Okay, so we know that below this lower trend line, that violates the bull flag, and that gives us the indication that we could test the bull flag trend line on the 30-minute or the 1 hour neckline. If we close above the bull flag trend line, upper trend line, then we can look at testing the FE100 at 40.30. Right here, we're in nowhere's land. A couple plays you could try if price comes down to here, buying at that point with very small stop loss under here. Or you can wait for a close above the upper trend line to go long, or you could even wait for a close below here and try to sell to the trend line on the 30-minute or the neckline. Now I must say that would be pretty risky. So if that's something you have in mind to do, you want to make sure you're leveraged properly and you have stops in place, because there is a lot of support under here. So I would either, depending on price action, you have to see the price action at the time. If price comes down to here, to buy, or closes above here, to buy, depending on what your price action looks like when the price hits these lines. Okay, this is March 14th, 2011.